Do you support the Prime Minister's decision to veto the Northern Gateway pipeline, Mr. Carney?
I understand the veto of the Northern Gateway pipeline.
You support it?
Given both environmental and commercial reasons.
Do you support it?
I think it was sensible. I wasn't involved in the decision, but I think it was the right decision.
And yet your company has invested billions of dollars in oil companies in both Brazil and the UAE to buy pipelines. You bought billions of dollars of pipelines as a company in the last 5 years. Do you support those investments?
Mr. Poilievre, there is a global energy system, and one of the issues, I'm trying to explain a bit of how the economy works. One of the
Thank you so much.
Well, it may help. One of the issues for this committee in thinking about a sustainable transition.
Do you support it?
Where is Canada's role in those as energy transitions from fossil fuels to renewables? And in different jurisdictions, into different geography, it matters. It matters, and this is a fundamental point.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. This is a fundamental. You're finally getting to a point.
You've exceeded
the time.
That
is relevant to this committee's inquiry.
What you're saying is you oppose pipelines in Canada, but you support them in the UAE and in Brazil. That's what you've actually said.
There are specific.
That's your double standard.
It is not a double standard.
It is a double standard.
No, it's not.
You make billions of dollars off foreign pipelines, and you shut them down here at home, putting our people out of work.
That you are a representative of the Canadian people, and one of your responsibilities, including at this committee,
is to fight for Canadian jobs, and not foreign jobs like you.
Exactly, to fight for Canadian jobs, and the types of Canadian jobs that are durable and are going to move forward.
Right.
I grew up in Alberta. I know the innovative nature of that.
Well, go try to give that answer back in Alberta, because I grew up there too, and I can tell you the people. I can tell you the people of Alberta would be ashamed with the answer you just gave. That you would give billions of dollars to foreign pipelines while not allowing Canadians to build pipelines here at home. That is the kind of elite Davos hypocrisy.
Could I please,
Madam Chair? This is really unbecoming of a member to badger any witness.
So with that, continue, Mr. Poilievre.
Thank you. Mr. Carney, you've just said you support your leader's decision to kill a Western Canadian pipeline that ships the most ethical product in the world. Yet you also support your company's decision to invest billions of dollars in foreign pipelines in Brazil and in the UAE. It's clear that this is not about the environment. If it were, you'd be consistent and you'd oppose fossil fuels everywhere. But you're happy to profit off of foreign fossil fuel companies while killing jobs among our own people. How do you address that flagrant hypocrisy? It smacks of the Davos elite at its worst.
Okay. First thing, absolutely, I support Canadian jobs, and I support Canadian jobs today and tomorrow. And in order to have those jobs tomorrow, what we need and what this committee can contribute is an energy transition. The Canadian fossil fuels, Canadian companies will play an essential role. Brookfield itself is heavily invested in Canada, including in energy infrastructure for fossil fuels, but it's also, and we connect collectively as Canadians, and we look to our parliament to support this, need to be putting in place the energies and industries of the future. That means carbon capture and storage. That means blue hydrogen, and both of which are absolutely essential for Canadian jobs in my home province of Alberta. And that's where the future lies. Now, we need to have the overall picture, which is why, and I'll finish with this, Chair, I emphasize the clear pathways, walking back from that, not jumping on specifics, and not seeing the bigger picture, nor providing the support that Canadians deserve.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Carney, can you tell me the countries from which your company sources the polysilicon that goes into its solar panels?
I mean, off the top of my head, I can't, but I can tell you that a number of the solar arrays, or the main components of solar arrays, and I would come from China, which is one of the largest producers. In fact, is the largest producer in the world of solar arrays.
Yes, that is true. In fact, half of the polysilicon, which is the main raw material used to make solar wafers, is produced in highly secretive coal-powered factories in the Xinjiang region, the same place the communist regime is carrying out a genocide against the Muslim minority. I'm going to quote Reuters here, quote, "Some U.S. lawmakers have voiced growing concern that the industry is dependent upon products, specifically the raw material polysilicon, linked to work camps in China's Shenzhen region. The U.S. State Department has made a determination that Chinese officials are perpetrating genocide there, and imports of cotton and tomato products from the region were banned this year. Will you make the commitment on behalf of Brookfield that you will not source any materials from the Shenzhen region?"
I'll make the commitment that we will not source materials that have the supply chain that you described. Yes.
So does that mean you will not source any materials for your solar panels from the Shenzhen region?
Well, I think one has to look at, I don't have with me today the exact source, the exact companies and the specifics. So I'm not, if I may, I'm not going to take the reference from a media report and apply it as fact. But certainly ethical sourcing is important to us at Brookfield, yes.
Well, that's a nice talking point, but you would think you would know one way or the other whether your materials are, being that you are responsible for environment, social, and governance for this massive $500 billion enterprise, that you would know off the top of your head if the materials were coming from a place known for slavery, genocide, and coal-fired electricity.
What I'm saying, Mr. Poilievre, is I do not believe that that is the case.
But you haven't verified it.
So you've asked me the question. Well, I have no reason to believe that it is the case. No.
Yeah. Okay. But you don't know. It just seems astonishing to me that someone who's responsible for environment, social, and governance would not want to guarantee that raw materials for your products are not coming from that kind of a region. And you've just said that the provenance is China. Well, the region in China where this material is produced is the Shenzhen region. So I'm just shocked that you haven't looked into this. It seems like you're concerned more with shareholder profits than you are with human rights and social justice. Your executive, I'm going to ask a question now. Your CEO says that a third of Brookfield's business will be in China within 25 years. China is the biggest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world. Why are you moving your resources and your capital to a country that has such intense emissions of greenhouse gases when that's the opposite of what you state as your purpose?
Well, to be clear on the specific, my role at Brookfield, which is to develop a strategy, which we are developing, which is to invest in companies, remove and eliminate greenhouse gases. So that's the impact, that's the transition approach. So what one does in that situation, if you may follow, is you go to where the emissions are and you convert dirty activities to green activities. And in fact, this is I believed when I accepted the invitation, was the focus of this this committee, is how we could do it for Canada. And so Brookfield is working. What I'm doing,
I don't think I'm getting an answer here.
If I may, you keep
had plenty of time, sir.
May
I please go on to my next question?
Well, actually, I wouldn't mind, rather than having your characterization of what I do, being allowed to give what I do, the facts of what I do, and what my responsibilities are. And my responsibilities at Brookfield are developing a transition fund, which we think will be world leading, which is to help.
And I'm commenting on the impact that has on human rights around the world, sir. That's the point. And so I'll conclude.
Greenhouse gas emissions.
A final question. A final question. An ethical way. Thank you. Do you believe that the Chinese government is perpetrating a genocide on the Uyghur people? Put shareholder profits aside and just focus on humanity here for a moment.
I focus on humanity. I spend
so yes or no?
Focus on humanity, which
yes
is
or no?
dedicated to my.
Yes or no?
I'm deeply concerned by the situation and with the.
Yes or no?
Thank you very much, Mr. Poilievre. Unfortunately,
shareholders first.
Time. We'll go into our third round, and our first 5-minute round goes to MP Poilievre.
I just want to make sure we're not dealing with more hypocritical window dressing here. Mr. Carney, it would cost your shareholders for you to recognize the Chinese genocide of the Uyghur people, because you're planning to move a third of your company's $500 billion portfolio to that country. But it would be the right thing to do. And it would be a courageous thing to do. So
well,
yes or no? No, you don't interrupt my question. I haven't asked it yet.
Okay.
Will you recognize on behalf of your company the genocide perpetrated by China against the Uyghur people? Yes or no?
I do not.
Madam Chair, point of order.
One moment, I'll stop the clock. Yes, Mr. Mr. Assassi, what is your point of order?
Madam Chair, as the member is fully aware, questions have to, first of all, not be repetitive. Secondly, they have to be relevant.
Your company and your company alone, Mr. Carney, has the legal authority to reject the subsidies that have doubled power bills on poor and working class Ontarians. Simple yes or no question. Will you turn down those subsidies to give Ontario's poor a break? Just a yes or no.
Mr. Poilievre, as you said moments ago, there are contracts put in place between the Ontario government and players in the Ontario power market that are providing electricity for Ontarians.
Overcharging, yes or no?
And so both sides of those contracts are honored.
Yes or no?
Mr. Poilievre, may I ask you to not speak over the witness? I can't hear the answer, and therefore the interpreters can.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
What is the point of order?
Point of order is that the rule is that the answer mustn't exceed the length of the question. Mr. Carney's had that length. He hasn't answered the question. Can we move on?
That is not actually the rule, but I will let you answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess we're not going to get an answer. It looks like that you and your company will continue to profit off the backs of poor and working class Ontarians by taking these massive government subsidies that you wrote into a contract under your previous Liberal government. Moving to the first point of your presentation on fiscal sustainability, do you support Mr. Trudeau's structural deficits?
As I said in my presentation, we should avoid structural deficits. So I make a distinction, as I believe you do, between the support that is provided during the COVID emergency and once we emerge from this situation, avoiding having deficits being driven by current spending that, as I said in my presentation, does not grow the economy in the future.
So is the current government on a sustainable fiscal path? Yes or no?
In my judgment, it is on a sustainable fiscal path because the deficit by the end of year 5 is largely driven, in fact, from what I can tell, is driven by those growth promoting measures, yes.
So you do support it. Do you think there's any chance that on this path we could have a debt crisis?
I think for Canada, no. Canada's situation is very strong. We must use, though, if I may add, we must use our fiscal resources very wisely and particularly with respect to the point of this committee's inquiry to effect for the type of proposals that have been discussed by colleagues.
Have you advised any ministers in the government, their staff or deputy ministers since September?
Advised. I have been asked questions from time to time by ministers and deputies, yes.
About climate finance? Have you talked to them about that?
I have talked to some ministers about climate finance. I would remind, if I would,
since September?
Well, I am the UN Special Envoy for Climate Finance, and I've spoken to ministers, deputy ministers, leaders.
Okay, since September?
I would add.
Sorry, you seem to be dodging the question. I don't know what you're hiding there. Since September?
Mr. Poilievre, I began with yes, so that is not a dodge.
Okay, good. Then you've answered the question. Have you contacted the lobbying commissioner to find out if this is in contravention of the rules? Given that you do stand to profit off of the policy decisions in this area, you are part of a company that could potentially make financial gains from the massive subsidies and other government policies that you profited from at a provincial level. Have you checked with the lobbying commissioner?
Madam Chair, point of order. Madam Chair, point of order.
We have a point of order on the floor. Mr. Assassi, your point of order?
Madam Chair, as the member is fully aware, there has to be some relevance to his questions to what we're discussing here today.
Yes, Mr. Carney, you do stand to profit off of these policies, and yet you are regularly intervening and influencing the decisions of ministers, deputy ministers, and you've done so since you became an executive at Brookfield. Did you register, yes or no, your interactions with the lobbying commissioner?
I'm sorry, I'm not going to have the premises to that question stand. I do not intervene. I do not influence. I would remind the members.
Did you register?
I would remind that I am an envoy of the United Nations, an advisor of the
right,
UK
another
Prime
conflict
Minister,
of interest
with respect to COP26, and that the United Nations and the UK government.
Did you register to lobby, Mr. Carney? Yes or no?
If I may be allowed to, if I may note, I have testified.
Did you register to lobby?
To Parliament.
Did you register to
over
lobby?
My career, I'm normally
did you register to lobby?
To answer the question.
Madam Chair,
did you register to
point
lobby?
of order.
Mr. Poilievre, may I ask that you allow the witness to answer before you talk over, because we can't hear the answer. Thank you.
Did he register to lobby?
I represent the United Nations. I represent the UK.
Do you register? Did you register to lobby? Yes or no?
We have a public
point of order, Madam Chair.
Strategy. I would like
point
to
of order.
Answer the question.
Yeah,
yes.
That's a great idea to the witness. I think the witness probably should answer the MP's
Madam
question,
Stubbs,
since that's
Madam
what
Stubbs,
witnesses are supposed to do at committee.
Your company says that it seeks to make profit off of these so-called green investments, which usually mean government subsidies. So you have a financial interest in these policies, sir. Your bonus is probably tied to them. Did you register to lobby the many ministers, deputy ministers, and staff that you've contacted since you took this job? Yes or no?
I don't lobby, period.
Unfortunately, that's your round of questions, MP Poilievre.